have a really interesting guest this morning that I reached out to because I am just an unabashed dog lover. So I reached out to the executive director of the United States Police Canine Association, and he was kind enough to spend some time with us today. Don Slavik, welcome to the program.
Hi, Betsy. How are you?
So Don, you guys are celebrating your 50th anniversary as an association. That's extraordinary. Talk about that.
That is correct. The end of next month, we will have been in existence for 50 years. It is probably the first organization that started in the United States, and it started between people from the Upper East Coast and people in Florida, and they joined together, and that's how we started as an association.
Now, Don, you are also you're a retired police officer, you're a trainer, you're an expert witness, so you've been involved with police work and police canines for decades, right?
Yes, that is correct. I have been over 40 years in canine.
So let's talk about the modern police canine now. First of all, it's not just German Shepherds and Malinois, right? And it's not just dogs who protect the handler. Canines have so many different uses today, don't they, Don?
Yes, they do. I think we offer 13 different certifications for dogs, and dogs can be, yes, they used to be German Shepherds primarily, and then the Belgian Malinois came in, and they actually are the #1 breed, I think, as far as use for the patrol type dogs, which would be the apprehension dogs. And of course, the softer dogs, such as the Labradors, the Golden Retrievers, are those dogs there. They are all over the United States and parts of the world, and actually do a very good job in detection work.
Now, when we talk about your average police department who has a canine, what is the expense of bringing in a canine, even one dog, to a police department?
Well, it depends on how you get your dog program started and what you use, which facilities that you use to train your dog. So since 9/11, there are a lot more canine vendors, and there are actually probably less police departments training dogs. So I started with a police department, and actually we trained our own dogs, so it was pretty seamless for me. But many people in the area, they have to go to a vendor, they go away to a school, or they pick an option where they can go after the dog has been trained, and then you spend some time with the dog, learn how the dog works, and then you bring the dog back home. It can be expensive, but most police agencies usually have some kind of tax-free or a foundation or something that works for them, and that's how they get the money for the dogs, the horses, and all of those things now.
Now, how is the Defund the Police movement affecting police canines nationwide?
Well, I think in the beginning, there was some hesitation about how that would affect law enforcement in general, and for us, the canine portion of it. But that seems to have softened a little bit. Both sides are now talking, and they're getting the idea that you can't totally defund. You can't expect people to come out of their offices and do things on the street, with crisis people and things like that, because that takes them out of their element actually also. But I think it's getting better. I think I see the dogs being purchased, or departments going ahead and getting dogs. I think the way we're going to do dogs in the future, the way we handle dogs, will change. But I don't think there is a stigma from a lot of people about what happened to them when they were younger, or the culture that they came from. And I don't think they're wrong in their beliefs as far as back then, but I think dogs have been changing since then, and changes will continue. There's no doubt about it.
So when you talk about back then, you're talking about like the 1960s and into the early 70s, right? Where dogs were used in crowd control situations, and very often they were overused, right?
I think they were used at the time in the prescribed way that they thought they should have been. But I remember our department, St. Paul, we quit using dogs for crowd control a long time ago, way long time ago, because it was seen as not being the right way to use force, and so that they decided to go a different way. And I think that's the key factor in the changes that you'll see in the future, is that police canines, when they first started, for me, it was in 1976. They may have been the tip of the spear, if you will, in searches and things like that, because they didn't have another plan at the time. But now there are so many different ways to gain compliance from someone that the dog is tracked or found, other than using the dog itself. And I think that's the important things that'll happen. There are other things that that need to go along with that also: policies, supervision, and proper training, of course.
Well, and so let's talk about, moving forward, what is the modern patrol police canine going to look like moving forward?
I think you're going to see more and more canines used in the same way, tracking, location kind of tools, because that is what they are. That's what they're good at. That's why we use them to begin with. The ability to locate scent or odor from illegal drugs, explosives, etc. But I think that when they find somebody or they locate somebody, I think there's going to be a different process on how they take control of someone before the dog is going to be used. I think that's going to be a key feature.
And is that something that your association is prescribing, to use the dogs differently?
Yes, we are actually have webinars where we teach when the canine program goes wrong in a police department. It's usually one of three, or maybe several of three, and that's a supervision. The policies are wrong, and the training is not the correct way. And then we are learning that we started this group in the USPCA, short for United States Police Canine Association. But we started a group last year of people from around the United States, different levels within police agencies. All were canine people except for a couple of it, except for the attorney. So we discuss laws, we discuss the issues that are here today, and we put this out in a video and webinars, and we have another one coming up on Wednesday. It's a supervisory one, what supervisors need to know. So one of the problems, I think, is that in law enforcement, no one comes into law enforcement with a history of having a dog, and a police dog, and understanding how it works and how they should run, and how they should be supervised and all of that. And I think that those types of things are what are changing now. Supervisors are being trained to how to deal with canine problems, issues, deployments, and things such as that.
Well, and explain to people, where does that patrol dog fall on the use of force continuum?
Well,
that's something people really need to understand.
That's another problem, is that the use of force continuum, as we know about it from our past careers, is they were in can you be struck with a nightstick? But the use of force law that is currently in does not have that use of force continuum. So was it reasonable? And so now what we're seeing is the departments are starting to say, the law, it's okay under this law, but we want to have a little more protection. So they're adding wording to different policies to make it more stringent, say for a canine handler to deploy his dog as a use of force. More things have to be there. It's almost as if it's almost as if the current use of force law, US case law, will be part of a use of force policy and not the more controlling part of it. So everything's changing, and that's one of the things that we see now, especially out your way and west. The chiefs they want more. They want to use the dogs, but they're just applying more restrictions to it.
How do you think if our legislators are able to get rid of qualified immunity for police officers, how will that affect a canine handler specifically?
Well, it's going to affect all police officers the same. We are actually engaged with some states now to help them with that decision if they so desire. And AKC is actually along with us on that. And I think they're finding out that it's not punishing the whole group that needs to happen, but they need to take control of the groups that are not in the norm, so to speak, that are using the dogs in a bad way. So I think that's what's happening.
Now, Don, one of the things that the Officer Down Memorial page does, odmp.org, is they memorialize police canines who die in the line of duty.
Yes.
And our, we have police dogs almost every week in this country who die in the line of duty, whether they're shot or stabbed, or they'll die of illness, they'll die in a hot car, things like that. Can you talk about the heroic nature of police canines a little bit?
Sure. And I also go to that page, and the last time I looked, there was 5, I think, that were there, and I come across my desk. Has been 2 or 3 since then. So we've had in St. Paul dogs pass. Gunshots were the reasons, and actually traffic and things like that. But there are a group of people that are trying to memorialize the police canine service dogs. Actually, now they were started out with police canines at the police memorial in DC, where they memorialize the officers, excuse me, that have passed away. I read all these every day coming across, and people have funerals, they have different kinds of things named in the dog's honor and for future things. And I mean, it's very passionate to have your dog killed in the line of duty. And it hurts because you spend a lot of time with that dog.
Well, and I want to talk about that. A lot of police canines, I would say most live with their handler, don't they?
Yes, they do. And in my house, we had a kennel outside, but all the dogs lived inside with us. Patrol dogs. I had some single purpose dogs, a narcotics dog, and they all lived inside. And trick or treat day, they were at the front door with all the kids sitting there, looking at the kids. And that is kind of a way of life. For me, there was absolutely no aggression allowed by the dog at any case whatsoever at home. And so that's something I could always get if I had to, but I never practiced, never allowed it. So that's how I got away from that.
Now because I supervised my agency's canine unit, and so as I travel around training, I meet lots of canine handlers, and I know there are different schools of thought on what you just talked about. I've met many handlers who subscribe to what you talk about, where that dog is a member of the family. It should be friendly. You should be able to take it to a scout meeting. It should sit and roll call, things like that. There's another school of thought who says that these dogs are tools and they shouldn't be petted and they shouldn't be treated like pets and things. Can you explain to our audience those differences and what your association believes?
So that was the same for me when I first started out with my first dog in '76. Don't let anybody pet the dog. Don't let anybody feed the dog. Don't let people get too close. And actually, over time, that has changed because through proper training, it's realized quickly on that the dog's selection process is better now. So you're picking the dogs that have the right behavioral temperament. In my time, all dogs were donated, but that doesn't mean that they were behaviorally challenged or anything. But now it's all about the dog being able to be on and off, just like a light switch. And so that's how most police departments handle it. Most agencies, the dogs are running around. And actually, I can go out right now just about to anybody that's practicing with a dog and doing the aggression part of it like that, and they can come right over after they've practiced, and I can pet that dog just like nothing happened. So it's very, very different.
Do the dogs enjoy working, Don?
I think they do, because obviously, if you don't know it, the dogs don't do things because they love us. They do things for the rewards that we give them. In our detection part of it, they search and search and search because they want the reward that's attached to finding something. So some dogs will search until they find. If they don't find anything, they don't get a reward, but that's a good thing. And the dogs that do apprehension, it's kind of it's a process where we are using some of their instinctual abilities to catch prey, is what it is. And we change and shape their behavior to do something that we want. That police work is all about that with canines. We are shaping the behavior to benefit the goal that we're trying to reach.
Now, talk a little bit about, and again, we all think of a German Shepherd or a Malinois, but and then you talked about strict, straight up detection dogs. Talk a little bit about Bloodhounds. I think people are always fascinated. You see them in movies, and very often you see them in a movie about a prison and they're released to find a prisoner. Talk a little bit about what you can use a Bloodhound for and how extraordinary these dogs are.
Bloodhounds are very extraordinary in their ability to locate scent and follow it to a source. And all dogs are very good at that, actually, because that is based upon their ability to find food, instinctually and things like that. Bloodhounds are I've never worked one, but one of the agencies next to me had one. And they always thought that was what that dog didn't ride in the car with them, but they had that dog somewhere, and they would pick him up from whoever's house he was. The handler would be at, and they would take him out and go. Now, dogs are interesting in general that they can, when they're tracking, they smell things that may have happened a week ago. So in a case that I'm working on right now, it has to do with the dog's ability to locate human odor, after that person is gone. And basically their skin cells actually that fall off the body. And as long as they stay moist, they're there for quite a while. So the dog is able to find that person. That skin cell is unique to that person.
What is the average work lifespan of a working police canine? How long can they work, Don?
So on the detection dogs, like the Labradors and stuff, they could work very hard and have a long life. The patrol dogs are a little more rugged, and the Belgian Malinois and the German Shepherds, they might have a useful working life of maybe 6 or 7 years, because they're asked to do a lot more agility and go into different places and things like that, where there's more distractions, more challenges, where not to say that the bomb dogs don't have challenges, but they're not asked to jump agilities and chase people and do things like that. So it can be quite a while for a lab. I worked at ATF for 7 years training bomb dogs. So the dogs there generally went till they were 8, 9.
And they have to be very athletic, right? A police dog. I mean, they have to train just like we have to train.
Well, if you are a good handler, you are keeping your dog on a diet to some degree. It's not put, in the government groups, they have vet people right there with them that prescribe this is how many cups of dog food this dog gets a day. That's it. out in the police world, it's not necessarily that way. So the idea that they can fill it up as much as they want, you can tell in a dog right away when he's had too much to eat. It's just like us,
Just like people.
Yep. And so they have to be, they're like athletes. And if you want them to perform in the way that you train them, you have to keep them physically capable of doing that.
Lastly, Don, what can, if someone's watching and their local police department doesn't have a canine, what's something that they can do to help start that program?
Well, money is the big thing, and the cost. The initial cost can be quite spendy. So what a lot of groups do way early on, they would form groups and they would gather money. They would do different things to promote of the possibility of a canine, name the dog, and all these things. Now, people and agencies, we recommend that they have a foundation. And this foundation is used to get monies at different functions or from citizens that wish to donate, and then they present the money to the department to buy the dog. And the department buys the dog wherever they wish, and I think there's a prescribed amount of money that's usually involved.
Awesome. Well, Don Slavik, you've given us so much information and so much to think about. Where can people find your association?
It's at uspcacanine.com.
Awesome, Don. Thanks so much for spending time with us. And if you would like more information about the National Police Association, visit us at nationalpolice.org.
Ma'am, put the gun down! Put the gun down!
Last year, law enforcement officers were involved in hundreds of thousands of use of force incidents. A use of force incident is when an officer must use nonverbal tactics to gain control of a dangerous situation.
Put the knife on the ground.
In many cases, officers have no choice but to use force when a suspect doesn't comply with a lawful order.
Use of force is always ugly. No one likes it, especially police officers.
Together, we can help de-escalate these dangerous encounters. Help police officers by complying with their lawful orders. Don't attack, attempt to disarm, or flee from an officer.
Use of force is an officer's last option. Most incidents can be avoided by not resisting arrest.
If you feel you've been wrongfully detained by a police officer, then seek a legal solution after the encounter has been resolved.
Let's keep everyone safe. Comply now and complain later.